Hello, everyone. In the last video, we took a look at a few foundational verses that seem to strongly imply that faith and faith alone is what is required for salvation. And then we started taking a look at the Gospel of Matthew. So in this video, we'll continue on in the Gospel of Matthew. And the next set of verses that we will take a look at are Matthew 7, verses 21 through 23. Here, Jesus is speaking, and he says, not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many will say to me that day, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers. And so when we look at verse 21, it seems pretty explicit that the salvation, whoever earns salvation is going to be the one who does the will of the Father specifically. So then the obvious question is, what is the will of the Father? So if we actually take a look at John chapter 6, verse 40, we can see it's plainly stated here, for my Father's will is that everyone who looks to the Son and believes in him shall have eternal life, and I will raise them up at the last day. And so it seems pretty clear here that John is stating that the will of the Father is to just trust in Jesus, trust in his Son, and nothing else. And so when we look at that and we keep that in mind, it actually makes verse 22 a little bit more clear. In verse 22, based on the context of verse 21, it appears that there will be people that come to Jesus who say, look, I've done all these good things in my life. I'm a good person. In this case, prophesying, driving out demons, performing miracles. But Jesus says, I never knew you. And so these are going to be people who come to the judgment who have done all these great things, but they never put their full trust and faith in Jesus. And that's how we get to know him and have a personal relationship with him, by trusting in him completely and then in prayer. And so this is, to me, an indicator that it's trust alone that is what is needed for salvation. And that, unfortunately, people who do these wonderful and amazing things and are just generally good people, but they don't put their trust in Jesus, are going to get turned away. And so that's where, these people, but the good news is if and when these people do come to the complete faith in Jesus, then all of these good works that they do they're going to earn these crowns and rewards in heaven. And so, but again, these series of verses, to me, clearly indicate that faith alone is what is required. So let's take a look at another set of verses around salvation, or what some people interpret to be salvation. So this is in Matthew 24, verses 11 through 16. And through most of this chapter, Jesus is talking to his disciples about, the end times and what's going to happen at the end before his second coming. So we pick up in verse 11. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many. And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. But he who endures to the end shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world as a witness to all the nations, and then the end will come. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let them understand. And let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. And so there are, some people who might look at these verses and they specifically look at the word endure in order to be saved, to imply that, we need good works and to do good things in order to earn our salvation. In this particular case, however, I just, in my opinion, believe that the context of the word saved is more akin to physical protection. Jesus is talking about the great tribulation and all these hardships and difficult things that people are going to be facing. And so he specifically says to flee to the mountains, to escape. And so to me, anyway, I feel like these verses are the word saved is talking about physical protection as opposed to spiritual eternal life. And so, in summary, some people look at these verses as pointing towards salvation and as support for a works based gospel, but I just believe that my own opinion is that is not the right context of the word saved, because again we're just talking about the tribulation. So let's take a look at one more verse. We'll start looking at some verses that I think really might be more about our eternal rewards as opposed to salvation. So the first series of verses here, Matthew 16, verses 24 through 27. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. Whoever loses their life for me will find it. What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? For the Son of Man is going to come to his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done." So I can certainly see how people would clearly look at this verse and say that this is an obvious indicator that works, and a lot of great works, are required for our salvation. We talk about, Jesus talks about, us denying ourselves, us being willing to lose our lives in order to find, spiritual life. And what good will it be for someone to gain the whole world but forfeit their soul? And so my personal opinion, however, is that in verse 27, he gets a little bit more specific when he says, this is what he's going to do for these people who either are able to do good works or not, is that he's going to reward each person according to what they have done. So to me, this is talking about the crowns that Paul talks about throughout his Gospels. And we looked at that at a previous video, but there are actually 5 eternal rewards that people can receive in heaven and earn based on their good works. And so this is almost like getting a bonus. Like step 1 is just coming to this childlike faith in Jesus, and by doing that, you get this beautiful gift of salvation. But then if you're doing good things in life, you're going to get even more than that. You're going to get all these different rewards. And so there's 5: the imperishable crown, the crown of rejoicing, the crown of glory, the crown of life, and the crown of righteousness. And so in the context of Matthew 16, 24 through 27, I believe Jesus is specifically referring to the rewards here, and that's why he is using this word reward in verse 27 to be a little bit more specific about what he's talking about in terms of the good works. So again, in summary, it's just my own interpretation that these verses are not referring to salvation, but they're referring to these eternal rewards and crowns that we can earn through our good works. So I think we'll stop here, and we'll continue on with the Gospel of Matthew in the next video. Thank you so much again. God bless you.